Word. Thank you very much, Jake, for hosting me on this channel and my game, Scavenger Crimson Catalyst. Welcome, everybody. I am Marquis, the co-creator, writer, and game designer, or as Jake put it, the architect of Scavenger and Scavenger Crimson Catalyst. This is basically a 5e campaign with a bunch of modifications on top. Crimson Catalyst itself is a book that will be coming out on Drive-Thru RPG very soon in both PDF and print-on-demand format, but you can get the first Scavenger book, which is the setting book, that will tell you about the dying world of Akara and the alien world of Torn and these crazy scavengers who are going on expeditions in both on Drive-Thru RPG as a PDF or Exalted Funeral as a very beautiful hardcover book with like a slipcover and all kinds of other little bells and whistles with it. But with that being said, let's just go ahead and get started with what's going to be going on tonight. So then, Scavenger. The end is nigh. The Bronze Age world of Akara is battered by cataclysms. Earthquakes are swallowing cities, sandstorms bury empires. Hope lies in the city of Tarnak. There, a mysterious monolith of unknown origin serves as a portal to a mystical world torn apart. For half a century have the Akarans dared Torn's alien insanity in search of miracles. Now, those broken by the great dying explore Torn in search of a way to survive. These daredevils risking their lives to save Akara are called scavengers. Now, even though Scavenger is heavily about Torn, our story starts tonight in the dying Bronze Age world that is Akara. In specific, we are in the city of Tarnak, Akara's great jade jewel. It is night. The sky is filled with 1,000 stars and 1,000 more celestial phenomenon, shooting comets and meteorites, a moon too big, a supermoon glowing silver and then yellow, and of course, what's unique to Tarnak, and Tarnak alone, a crinkling aurora above the city. This is a city at a tropical climate, a place where wars should not be, and yet the changing, shifting looms of sapphire to jade dance in a light upon the city itself, a city of towers, a city of refugees and sojourners. And as we look into that city and its dust district, where people from all across the world intermingle here on the streets with their scarab lizards and their stalls and their food and their dens of drugs and their breweries and inns, tell me, Tor, who are you and where do we find you?
In one of the countless alleyways in the Dust District, um, underneath like a canopy of different dyed fabrics that are like drying, dripping down dye onto the street. Um, there's a small stall, and there's like trinkets laid out all over it. There's crystals and dice and cards and all sorts of focuses for fortune telling. And behind the stall is a hulking Morg. He's under a robe, like a shabby looking robe, and his milk white eyes seem to be staring blindly towards the stars, though he sees more than you might think. In the broken wall behind him, perched up high, there's a small creature, a gubaja, or a rock howler. It's his familiar, and it watches the street and has a perfect command of the whole area. And he sees through its eyes. Occasionally, a person will come to the stall and purchase a crystal or a healing poultice or something like that. Often, Tor has been approached by iridescent lipped drug addicts seeking either more of this specific rainbow drug that they're into or a cure. And he has been able to assist many of them in that. He's a druid of the stars. He's once was a Baal, like a lord from a different city. And he and his ilk have beheld the stars before the Great Change, and he knows of constellations that no longer exist. He studies and, in a way, worships them. He's the creature, the little creature, the familiar, spots a woman who's walking proudly, which is not something you see in the district often. but she's dressed in rags. She's a little bit too clean for this area. Um, and seeing her, Tor will like move some of his poultices and hide them. And as she approaches, she like ducks into an alleyway and then appears to be an old crone. And she approaches, seeking a cure for the affliction. And he shakes his head ruefully. Cannot cure, only tell fortunes, only read portents. Apology. It's not the first time that the Stygian serpents had come to find him and see if they could convince him to stop curing people, but he's keeping an eye out for them nonetheless. So that's what he's up to most of the time.
I love it. Fantastic. As you tell this woman, the Stygian serpent in disguise, who's trying to get from you your wares, your techniques, your shard sciences, there is another figure who approaches your stall. This figure is significantly taller, standing just as proud. You could tell from the slightness of the shoulders it is a woman, but a very tall woman, one of the 6 hands in height. As she approaches, she throws back her hood. The old Stygian serpent will move back into the crowd, and when she does, you can see 2 other figures following her, her midnight children, her bodyguards. And when they disappear, this new woman looks at you, and you can see on her face there are tattoos. Tattoos of spears and people being slaughtered by spears and storms and fires. The tattoos of a Hanyi, another kind of mystic, one who deals in cruelty, the cruelty of others, so that way people can learn from those experiences. And she looks at you and she says, your name is Tor, yes? Who perceived ancient skies now lost?
Perhaps.
I am Sin Eater 3. I am your ruin scribe from the Ruin Assembly. We found an expedition for you. I've come to collect you.
Hmm. He'll blink and his eyes will return. He'll stop looking through the familiar, um, and he'll say, "Very good. Mm, I will prepare." And he'll like get a little sack and just like with 2 of his
Mhm.
forearms, just like the entire stall into the sack, wrap it over his shoulder, and then stand. I follow.
She nods, smiling at how efficient you are. You see that this is a woman, probably a former scavenger herself from how she moves, who respects the pragmatic nature of the morgue and how efficient they are. As she turns, you both walk into the city. Again, the streets are just chock full of people. Even though it's a late hour at night, you see dancers who are twirling around fires. You see other mystics who are speaking out some kind of psalms or other prophecies to crowds of people. You see people circling, 2 men moving around each other with these glinting red stones in their hands, shard stones, a hyperdual of some sort. And as you 2 head off into the Dust District to find the next member of your ring, we turn to you, Adamai. Where do we find you, and what are you doing?
Adamai moves through the Dagger District, moving from shadow to shadow, corner to corner, coming from a recent meeting, handing over a dagger that is both practical and symbolic. This dagger is the dagger that belongs to the head of the unnamed um, organization of saboteurs and assassins. It has no name because giving something a name already shines a light on it. If it doesn't have a name, then it can be that much harder, that much more difficult to track down. But Adamai has handed over this dagger in preparation for things to come. They have seen in the flames a future that does not have them in direct leadership, at least for a while, if not forever. They wear below their hairline, above their brow, a dark, almost looks like a bandana, almost like a headband across their brow. A very discerning viewer, though Adamai does their best not to be discerned, might notice that there is subtle movement just beneath that headband. Adamai moves to a corner, pausing to see those that move amongst the streets and alleyways of the Dagger District, as they have through each district they've moved on this day, pausing to read the body language of the people around them, looking to see that people are indeed continuing about their normal activities, that nothing stands out to them as suspicious, as it were, despite having the sense that there is nobody out to get them. You see, at the next corner they approach, we see Adamai pauses, and when they are certain that it is the opportune time to cross the wider street, we see Adamai both step out into the road, but also stay at the corner. Adamai sends an echo forward, a decoy. It crosses. Nothing happens. It is safe. Adamai follows the echo. Adamai is slightly concerned that though their organization has no name and has stayed successfully unnoticed, giving up a thing is hard. Giving up control of a thing is difficult. Trusting is the part that makes it difficult, trusting others. And in the position that Adamai has been in this leadership role for some time of this particular organization, immediately suspects that there may be some form of ramification or retribution or power grab, as it were. That is why they have their senses peaked. And this is how they will continue to move through any location that looks like it's a little busier, and could be a prime opportunity for an assassin to move through the crowd or other trouble to happen. You see the echo flit out, pausing long enough to be a target should somebody be targeting them. And this is how they
Make me
continue.
a dexterity check, Adamai.
Ooh, first dice roll.
Actually, sorry, make it a wisdom check. I lied to you.
Okay.
The first of many lies.
That is a 16 on the die.
Nice.
So that's a dirty 20.
Nice. So as you are moving stealthily through the streets of the Dagger District, where there are far less people than the Dust District, where Tor was collected, but even tonight you can see groups of people moving conspiratorially through the shadows, you do spot when you enter one alleyway jumping from the street, and you look around and you see in the alleyway you just came out of a child. The child is young, an Akaran child, maybe no more than 13 or 12 summers old. And when you see this child, they have deep, dark bags under their eyes, and they have eyes that look at you as if they're looking across 1,000 blades, as if these were the eyes of a man who had lived 1,000 lives, and each life was a life of suffering and a life of secrets. And when this child looks at you, they shake their head very faintly and then run off into the street and disappear. As they do so, a second figure comes on the other side of you, Adamai, and as you turn, maybe your hackles raised, your paranoia peaked, you see a dark figure cloaked and a tall, four-armed Morg that you recognize, Tor. The cloaked figure throws back their hood, and you see that woman with the tattoos around her eyes, and she says, Atamai,
You see that subtle movement beneath the headband, like an eye in REM sleep, as it shifts sort of subtly in the direction of Tor. And then Adamai looks into Tor's eyes, looking for assurance that everything is okay.
Yeah, he'll he doesn't look concerned. And with his two right arms, he'll like move his fingers in a certain pattern. This is like a part of the Morgani speech. Um, and you would know that this is sort of like a all good.
I think that coupled with just the reading of the body language, no, a lack of tension, a lack of even subdued readiness. Only then do I turn to this figure looking up at them. You have found Adamai.
She turns and she walks away immediately, essentially trusting you as a kith to be able to read her body language and to follow her. Do you do so?
I do.
You both follow her through the Daga district, which again, late at night, the aurora crinkling above you, and as you do so, you see that she is leading you to the old district at the center of Tarnak. You can tell that she is mainly because of three very important landmarks. Of course, you have the massive dark monolith, that portal to another world that's been open now for 50 years, rising ahead of you into the night sky. And of course, you have the inner Qatar wall, which separates the old district from the rest of the city. But also, you see, glistening upon the towers and palisades and the richest part of this place. Oh, is my theater a bit low? My volume a bit low?
No, that was Lloyd.
Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry. Anyway, you see glittering upon the palisades and the towers these lights. Lights unlike anything you've ever seen before coming up from the streets. And when you get to the gate that separates one district from another and you pass through it, the ivory guard on both sides opening these massive gates, you see what causes these lights. Things you've seen before, but not much. The only street lights that exist in the entirety of this world made from shard stones. And they don't glitter red lights as you may expect from shard stones atop these bronze pillars, but lights of every different color. Sometimes lights filled with patterns, sometimes lights filled with images, so you see dancing on the sides of towers or even in the space between courtyard and tower, creatures and alien things and scenes. And yes, you see here enough shard science and money that the many poor in the Dust District, or idols forbid, the slums outside the main walls, this amount of money could change their lives. You're in a completely different universe in this old district, and she leads you through these streets where music is being played from some courtyards, and you see merchants here fat, enjoying the evening hour, something that, of course, only they can do with this extra light they have afforded to them, and you are taken to the steps of the ruin assembly. It is a humble building, a series of squat towers by the monolith. You see outside of the ruin assembly are gathered, as there always are, different scavenger rings. People who don't look like they're rich, and truthfully, they aren't, and many of them never have been. People wearing armor made from chitin, or wearing these robes that are covered with ceramic plates, or have these glittering shardstones in their faces, on their brows as tiaras, or on their arms as bronze gauntlets. Some with spears, and some with spears made out of black, weird metal that looks like nothing you've ever seen before. And some people that don't even look like people, who aren't a Karin, a Morg, or Kith, but have a magenta skin crisscrossed in patterns. They say those people are Torn bloods, people born in Torn, native to Torn, if such a strange thing could exist, related to Akara somehow. And all this, Sin Eater 3, your ruin scribe, ignores. She takes you to the main entrance. She turns to you and she says, we use a special series of shard sciences to ensure that we have privacy in our meeting. Do not be alarmed at the appearance of Nahi. Nahi, you know, being a kind of static and light given off by Shardstone. As she enters, there's a brief moment, maybe like 30 seconds or so, where you two are alone. You two do know each other, and you are standing on opposite ends of the spectrum, as it were. Do you say anything to each other as you go in to find out what your first ever expedition shall be?
We've been chosen at last. A chance to prove ourselves. The omens are good.
I trust your reading of the stars. It is good.
We've wanted this.
I am ready.
You are always ready.
I have shed all but one of the last vestiges. What ties me here? With that, I reach up and I undo the headband. And as I pull it away, you see this red on black third eye in the middle of my forehead. And you would actually see that it is looking right at you, Tor. Even though I cast my other eyes, my two eyes are looking down at this simple headband, and I just let it slip through my fingers and drop to the floor. Whatever awaits us from here, we have seen glimpses of it. I am ready to see all of it.
With that, as you guys enter, you see that standing there facing the curtain, but clearly not having eavesdropped, is Sin Eater, as she calls herself. And a scavenger epithet, you know that scavengers have different epithets based off the things they achieve and discover, and the number represents how many people have discovered or held that same epithet in the past. This woman is Sin Eater 3, is the third woman to have been named as such, whatever this may mean. She's looking at the curtain, and when you guys enter, that's when the flash of Nahi happens. It is a soft but quick red glimmer that will dance around the edge of your vision, almost not even there. And you'll hear in your ear a bit of static, strange, and then the woman, Sin Eater, will walk back through the curtain beckoning you to follow. And as you do so, you don't come back outside. You are now in a dark chamber, a chamber that is long, that has at the very center of it a fire that is currently burning. And around that fire, or rather on top of that fire, a series of bronze platforms, and then a hookah on top of that. And around the fire are three different cushions for you to sit on. She takes one, leaving you both to sit on the other sides. When she does sit, she throws off her cloak, and you see underneath she is wearing this beautiful set of bronze armor. It's nothing as advanced as plate armor. Only someone like the Macards would have something that quite advanced. She wears almost like a just a bronze uh breastplate. There we go. I don't know what's blanking on the name. A bronze breastplate. And sitting on that bronze breastplate is a necklace with a huge, massive golden disc. And on that golden disc, there are moving red shapes, shardstone etchings of people killing each other and fighting and being slaughtered in 100 different ways: earthquake, fire, burned alive, tortured, decapitated. It is a doom etched sun disc. Tor, you recognize this as a tool of shard science used by the Hanye. And you know now that this woman, a sin eater, a warlord given how she moves, is also a mystic in some ways like you. She pulls from her hand, or she pulls from underneath her war plate in her hand, a perfectly round shardstone. And she says to you two, I won't keep you guessing. You both have come to the ruin assembly saying that you saw each other in number B, which means that you are ready to become scavengers, and you have assured us, the Ruin Assembly, you did not die in Nambarby. That is true, yes? Good. So then, again, I will not keep you guessing. As you know, as you are both scavengers who are greenhorns, you are not ready to go into Torn. At least not with your current connections. You don't have a patron or anybody that you know who will get you a Torn sigil. Because of that, the Ruin Assembly has decided to do as it usually does, where it will put you to work here in Akara. We have found a patron, or in this case, a series of patrons, that is willing to back you. And should you do this, not only will you be paid by them, you'll be paid by us. And we will ensure that the information you bring back would be used to put you in contact with another patron who can take you to Torn. If it sounds too good to be true, it is not. Many die in Akara. You have seen the world, the great dying taking place, the cataclysm for all life. Earthquakes and heat raids, monsoon raids and cold snaps, sandstorms. And when she says sandstorms, you hear a quiver in her voice, especially Adamai as a kid. You know that's personal for her. And she says, sandstorms that bury cities. So if you come back alive, having succeeded with news or scavengings, we will see that you find your way into Torn. That is amenable, yes?
It
Good.
is.
Again, my name is Sin Eater. I will be your ruin scribe for so long as you live and I live. When it comes to dealing with the ruin assembly, requisitioning any of our assets, looking for a patron, or dealing with other scavengers, we will help you. I am not your boss, and we are not your boss. We are not a guild of any sort. We are an organization who works together, but we are all scavengers. We are all equal. I simply have more experience when it comes to dealing with the bureaucracy that Tarnak requires. Now, with that being said, what is it that we want you to do? First, a little bit of background. Or rather, there is a place called the Forest of Relics. It is far to the west of here. And I'll go ahead in the Owlbear Rodeo, and let me just go ahead and pull up the Akara map for you guys to see,
While Marquis
so you
does
can see
that,
what I'm talking about.
for the viewers, in future sessions, I will have the Owl Bear Rodeo view available, so you'll all be able to
Word.
see what we see.
Cool. So you should see Tarnak there with some blue lines and everything. So you guys see it all fine? Or Lloyd, are you in this? Owlbear Rodeo? I put the link into the Discord. You should be able to get in there.
Yeah, I asked to
Oh, there
join.
we go. Boom. My bad, I must have missed it earlier. Cool. Easy. So she continues. There is a place called the Forest of Relics. A group of refugees, Kith refugees, came from the Forest of Relics 3 months ago. They said that the Humbaba that they were taking care of was in danger, as with their lives. They wanted an escort from the Forest of Relics to the city of Tarnak. The Ruin Assembly assessed that such was necessary, and we sent a rival ring to help them. Again, that was 3 months ago. They have not returned. 3 days ago, a bone keeper came to the ruin assembly. They alleged that Skryn had come upon their survey in the forest of relics. They also reported that strange, brutalist block structures, unlike anything Akaran made, were haphazardly built from corpses, mud, broken trees, and pieces of pre-existing ruins exhumed from the forest of relics. The bone keeper tells us they saw no kith, but they did find prints belonging to a Humbaba. And just to explain what some of those things are that you guys would know, especially you, Adamai, being a Kith, you would know that a Humbaba is one of Akara's apex predators. It is huge in stature, bipedal, one of the few mammals, furred and horned. Many Kith take care of them, and they have like a symbiotic relationship with said Kith. The Skren, you know, are an alien threat found in Torn that have somehow found their way into Akara. We don't really know if they're intelligent. They swarm from the ground, they are blind, they are quadrupedal, and they are extremely dangerous. Some rumors say that Skrin have taken out entire cities post-earthquake. A bone keeper, lastly, is a kind of scribe, essentially. They scrimshaw bones with their information, they're a sage. She continues and she says to you, excuse me, she continues and she says to you, the ring was unique. Among their number was an invoker, epitheted as Ephegist one. Another among them was a shar, an allied species from another beyond, one of the very few that we made contact with in Torn. Both are important in their own way. Ephegist had a shard worked device that manipulated sentinels. The Shah, whose name epithet was Hanyi 17, is one of the few living members of their species, and the keeper of knowledge far beyond their own. If you bring them back, or if you find any news of them and bring that back, we will pay you the same. And if you can figure out what those structures are, we will pay you for that as well. That is not all. The Forest of Relics is exactly what it sounds like. It is a very old place. Many civilizations there, risen and fallen. Because you are going there and because news does spread, other patrons who are richer and more materially invested want some things as well. I have prepared for you a scroll, and she'll take it out and she'll hand it over to you. A black lacquered wooden scroll box. And when you take it out and you unfurl the scroll, you'll see these sketchings and descriptions of several items that I will send you shortly. And she says, these are relics, not only of heroes, but two of those are shardworks. A cache of an invoker native to a place there and a series of rare hyperdrugs that we hope to recover. Finally, there is one more thing. The Bonekeeper survey was 5 others underneath the sage. If you can find out what happened to those people, the Bonekeeper wishes to know, that too will be added to your reward for the expedition. Do you have any questions so far?
Tor doesn't have questions necessarily. He's thinking. He's drumming sort of on the ground with like two of his hands, while another one scratches at his chin, sort of considering. He's just piecing together. There's a lot of individual pieces that need to be done, and he's trying to make a mental list of them.
I would lean over to Tor, reading in his posture what he said. There's not so much questioning, more calculating. Is there any part of this that gives you pause, concern?
The constructions, whatever they are, structures made of corpses and mud. I'm unfamiliar with that.
Is it the desecration? Celebration?
Hard to know. I understand enough about Skren, and I know how to move across country and search for people, but these structures could be anything.
As you guys are talking, Sin Eater is packing the hookah and she lights it. And she takes and she hits it twice just to get it started. You hear the bubbling of the fluids. When she spits out the smoke, when she exhales the smoke, it comes out prismatic and multicolored, forming different images and shapes amongst it. You realize that this is torn hash, a special hash that is very rarely grown in Torn, but is becoming more common now. especially with the proliferation of scavengers that we have in our modern era. And as you braze it out, you can see in the torn hash echoes of yourselves. Nothing compromising, which Adam I may be worried about at first, but they are echoes of who you are, what you are, showing you at different places through Tarnak, but not the places themselves, just a silhouette of yourself. Scene leader says, I have two leads for you. We figure here at the Ruin Assembly that it is good to give scavengers as much information as we can. Fortunately or unfortunately, I cannot do the investigation for you, but I can tell you two names. The name of the Bone Keeper and the name of the Kith who came here. The Bone Keeper's name is Gazes Far Away. She is a Cotton. You will find her in the Dust District in a Qualia Den near the city wall. It is called the Spirit of the Age. Have either of you been to a Qualia Den before? I did not think so. It is an interesting place. And she moves on explaining it, saying, the Kith's name is Yabin. Yabin you will find at a gallery of daggers specifically, and she starts going through like this paper she has for herself, her notes essentially, as I change over my Howl Bear Rodeo back to the Tarnak map, and I unveil these places for you. It is Noosa's gallery of daggers in the Dagger District. Now, it is late at night, but the reason I have gathered you here at night is because both of these people are often active at these hours. There is a third lead I have for you as well. We heard recently that another sojourner had come through the Forest of Relics. Their name is Kashir of Anfe, and I'll put all these into the chat for you guys. And she says their location is in the Serpent's Slums. And let me make that over here, Anfe's Hovel, all the way on the east side. These three leads should be able to provide you some information about what is happening over there. I'm not sure what they will know, but it will be good for you to have some kind of understanding of the Forest of Relics and what they know before you head out. Divination has not unveiled to us what cataclysm is coming, so we cannot prepare you for that, but do know that there will be a cataclysm. There always is. That's being said, and then she'll blow the hookah out again. She'll take another deep drag, release it, and as she does so, the smoke will form four clouds. Three of the clouds will form the faces of the three people she just mentioned, gazes far away, Yabin and Kashara Von Fey, and the other one will make a map of Tarnak that is flading in and out, and you'll see Nahi dancing around it as well, and she'll say, there is a city called Umbar on the other side of Akata's crest. And let me pull that up for you guys real quick. Here we go. Here at Umbar is a place where we want you to stop and bring back Newsom as well. But that is just to make a easy reference point for you. From Umbar, it would be wise for you to descend into the Forest of Lyrics into Nazar. Nazar is where the artifacts I have put inside of your scroll case will be found. I can tell you a little about Nazar. It was once a great city of warriors. They had golden spears, it is said. I have seen a few with my own eyes. The city was destroyed when the cataclysm began 10 years ago. An earthquake caused the entire mountain it was on, or rather the side of the mountain, to crumble. Nazar is now strewn across the forest of relics and the general area around it. You won't be able to go exactly there to find the city. You will have to scavenge throughout the forest to see what you can find. The southern half. Anfe, if you have to go there, is fine, but Anfe is a bit of a strange place, I hear. I would only go there if you feel forced, or if you feel that you need some kind of supplies or other kind of help. That is all I can give for you tonight. I do have one last thing to mention, however, and she holds up the perfectly round shardstone. This is an oath shard. I'm going to make a shard-bound pact upon it, and you will swear a shard-bound vow and attune to this oath shard with a drop of your blood. We do this to ensure that you actually do the expedition as requested. You still have freedom to do what you must, but if you were to betray your patrons, of who I am currently acting as liaison of, you will suffer a curse. You will never be able to attune to shard stones again. You must accept this before we accept you as a scavenger ring.
I am satisfied. I accept.
Atamai makes a, a slight scoffing sound at the um not at the not in any way to be construed as a dissension, but rather it's scoffing at the idea that a that their trust and their uh ability or I guess integrity to follow through on the quest should need to be sealed with attunement to a shardstone. Um, they'll do it, but the scoff is just like, how dare you question my integrity?
Eater, you could tell, is a pragmatic woman from reading her body language. She has an accent that places her of the now wiped out Green Empire, is now called the Blood Sands, to the south across the Sea of Songs. And you could tell by looking at her, she's a woman who's seen many travesties and many hardships. And so when you scoff, she says, only the naive would send somebody with shard science out on their behalf and expect them to play by the rules. And then she will hand the shardstone first to Tor, standing up, passing it, sitting back down. When you look into this round shardstone, you will see, as you do all unattuned shard works, a reflection of yourself with the shardstone. And you see yourself in essentially an omen, where what you see is the monolith before you yawning open, and you and Atamai walking forward. Will the Shardstone actually make this future come true? Sometimes they say it does. Sometimes they say it does, but it's warped. Who can say? Do you tune to it?
Yeah, he'll use a minor bit of his magical prowess to like grow his thumbnail long and point it into a claw. And
Nice.
he'll like pierce his forearm and drip some blood onto the stone and swear it.
As the blood drops onto the stone, instantly you attune to it, and your eyes will completely shift over. Your vision, I should say. Everything will turn red, and then that red will become visual snow. And in that visual snow, you'll see a small vision into the future. No, a vision into the past, you realize. You see this woman, Sin Eater, and you see her on a lonely raft, sailing across a storm-racked sea, the Sea of Songs, and then a bit of her will is imparted in you, a bit of her resolve, and you feel yourself thinking faster, more resolute, stronger, a byproduct of attunement. Do you then pass it to Adamai?
Yeah. Um, he'll pass it to Adamai with a look of it's procedure. Don't make a scene.
Ah,
As much as it can, the third eye rolls. Um, and then it shifts. The third eye shifts while I look at you, Tor, and take the shardstone. The third eye shifts to look at Sin Eater 3. Um, and I would say in that moment, you didn't hear it. You probably didn't even see it. But in the same motion in which I take the shardstone from you, one of my daggers is in my other hand. And just before I take the shardstone from you, there's just a flick of the tip of the blade, opening a small wound in the hand that takes the shardstone. And then I will hold it in that hand, letting my blood absorb or wash over or whatever it does into the shardstone.
As you do so, you see two things as well. First, the glint of the omen, but your omen is different, Adamai. And as you attune so fast to it, you don't get a chance to reconsider. Your omen is you with two ivory guards serving Tarnak beside you, with their spears pointed down at you, as if your fate, if you attune to the Shardstone, is for your conspiracy to run aground. And then you attune to it, and you see for a moment Sin Eater sitting in a prison, and there are two people standing in front of the bars, the bronze bars on the other side, and they say, if you want to live, and if you want to get out of here, attune to this. And then the vision ends, and then you're back here in base reality, and she takes the Ostard back from you. Do you have any reaction to seeing this ill omen in the Shardstone?
I think the only reaction is, as much as I'm able to, conceal. I think a big part of being Kith and being able to read people's body language, you learn how to subdue your own. Um, that third eye always betrays, and I think there's a nervous flicker of the third eye between uh, Sin Eater 3 and Tor. Um, I think that would be the only betrayal of emotion. Otherwise, trying to be as stoic as possible.
She sits back, Senator, breathes in the hookah, says to you, Adamai, you're fast. That kind of clever speed will be beneficial on the cruel road before you. The patrons have requested, and we agree with this request, that you leave tomorrow in the ninth hour of the morning. That means you will need to go speak with the leads this tonight and make your preparations as well. When you're ready, you can come back here. We have requisitioned for you supplies. We will give those to you before you leave. When you leave through the curtain, merely walk back through, and you will be in the old district.
We are grateful for the opportunity.
We are grateful for your daring as well. Cool. So when you guys both leave, you go boom, boom, in and out of the curtain. And as she said, you do come back out into the middle of the old district by the monolith. You see it yawning there, really right in front of you, completely imposing, and also somehow like it just doesn't look like it should be all that. This weird structure, like it shouldn't be so special despite how dark it is, despite how important it is meant to be. And yet you know through that yawning opening at the base of it is a completely new dimension you'll be entering so long as you succeed on this expedition. You have three leads. What do you guys say to yourselves and where do you want to start? Hmm?
Tor will place a huge hand on Atomai's back. It will be well. The omens were good.
I trust the omens because I trust you.
Trust me more than omens. We will need that. Let us go find Gaze is far away. And then we can go to the Gallery of Daggers. They are close together. If there is still time, we can make our way to Afe and Faye.
I agree. How how big is this city? When we're talking about moving from the old district and we moved from the two districts that we're heading back to, what kind of time are we talking here?
You guys could probably get both of these people like reached like within the hour, essentially. It'd be maybe like 15 minutes to get over there, and then like maybe like another 30 minutes just to cross through people and everything. So within the hour, you can at least be at the first contact. It may take you about 4 hours to get all three tonight.
Okay.
So, it's not quite midnight yet. Or actually, did someone mention it was midnight earlier or no? I don't think so. I don't remember. We'll pretend like no. So we'll just say like it's still pretty early in the evening. So the time pressure isn't very big. You still have to leave in the following morning, after you do your final preparations. So that being said, as you guys begin to cross out of the old district and you're walking underneath again these street lamps that are projecting many different kinds of images and lights, you pass through the gate into the Dust district, and it's just sometimes kind of crazy how stark it is, the difference between the haves and the have-nots here. How many people are jam-packed into the streets of the Dust District, many of them sleeping in the alleyways, sleeping on the streets, people in the towers throwing out slop in the middle of the night, and so stalls open where people are cooking, dancing, singing, drunk, high. People are trying to live as best they can here at the end of days. And you feel amongst the crowds as you two pass through them something strange. Both of you, please make me a wisdom ability check.
30-20.
Nice.
14.
Automai. Tor, you don't sense it. You think maybe it's nothing, and your Gubaja doesn't sense it either. But Adamai, you know Akarans and the micro expressions and movements they have and how those ripple from one Akaran to the next. And you read from the crowd that you are being followed or watched. What do you do?
Before I alert Tor, I will subtly divert Tor. Maybe this will be the only sort of alert you get. Trying to shield us through as we move past maybe a stall or something that I feel is going to completely create a momentary blockage between hopefully whatever's following or whoever's watching. And in that moment, I'm going to send my echo in a 90 degrees to the other direction down a different alleyway. And I will direct us basically almost playing it toward kind of like guiding you like, let's just go this way. We take a slight diversion, just down one alley. I'm going to let my echo go as basically until it runs out of range and um,
Make
fades out.
me an intelligence check with advantage.
All right. Let's see. What is my int? Okay. Of course. There we go. Not my
And it's
my document locked
uh
up while I was trying to get right before I got to that. All right, so this is fun. After 2 dirty 20s in a row, I just rolled a nat 1.
So even with your distraction, when your echo flickers out the opposite direction, you could still tell from the crowd it didn't work. You're still being followed.
So with that, uh, feeling that, um, and the echo only has, I wanted to double check that. The echo only has about 15 feet of range, I believe. Or sorry, it's 30 feet. I have to summon it within 15. So once it gets about 30 feet away, it vanishes, and sensing that we're still being watched or followed. I'm
Pantomime, you are tense.
I'm gonna give you Tor sort of a variation on what you gave earlier with the um the hand signals. Um Brushing your one of your lower arms, your hand I'm going to do sort of like the hand signal where it's sensory, touching, so you don't have to be able to see it. I'm doing it into the palm of your hand and just communicating to you, uh, we are being either watched or followed. Also, just because it's relevant, I am proficient in Morgani.
Tor is not in the habit of being afraid or concerned that often. Um, he puts a lot of stock in destiny and things being preordained. And so when he's told that they're being followed, he straight up turns around and looks to see if he can spot someone who's following them. Um, just has a look, above probably most of the people.
Nice. The moment you do so, a figure steps out of the crowd, or rather through the crowd, because you guys are sort of jam-packed with other people. This figure is short, hunched Okaran with straggly dark hair, and they looks not sickly but exhausted, and they have clearly weathered by the years upon their face. And as they step forward, they look around like this, and they look at you, Adamai, and they go to grab your wrists, and they say to you in a very hushed tone, regardless if you lit them to or not, are you moving on with the plan? And they look at you with these bugged eyes, and you don't know what exactly they're talking about. Hmm?
I don't like erratic behavior because it belies the almost involuntary body language that people speak. When people are acting erratic, people are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It subdues and alters those otherwise subtle things. It creates a muddied language that even I think even being as practiced in this sort of empathetic understanding of people, that's the one part. In the same way, you can't understand a drunk who slurs their words too much. This is a slurring of body language. Erraticism, erratic behavior is like a severe stutter. In that sense, then it becomes difficult to parse what their true intention is. And I think in counterpoint to that, while they grab hold of my wrist, my other hand is immediately on a dagger. But I haven't drawn it.
Um,
Instead,
can I interrupt? I think Tor has. We've been through this before, and Tor is a de-escalator, while I think maybe Atomai is an escalator. Um, and so he'll put like one of his big arms on the shoulder of the Akaran and one on Atomai's shoulder and just sort of move them apart and say, "Oh, there, friend. Do not touch unless
As
invited."
as you do that, they switch to Kanuane, your native language from Kanuma, and they say, "Our stars are intertwined. Our stars are intertwined." And then as you push them away more, like the crowd will move this figure away, and as they do so, the sense automatic you're being watched is still there, telling you it wasn't from this figure, and then that sense of being watched is gone.
Um, Tor is looking for this person because maybe our stars are intertwined, and maybe there's a real reason why we met this night. So he's like looking through the crowd, but they seem to have vanished. Um, and he'll turn to Atamai. "Are you well?"
we have not even crossed the threshold. It's as if we are still within our own abode, and already it's happening. Whatever that was, it felt like a distraction.
"Well, then we should continue on our way and be distracted no further. I think we could both use a bite to eat." And he spots like a nearby street vendor and will like walk with one arm sort of behind Atomai, so that sort of like moving them in the direction of the thing and trying to like break the moment that we had here to something more pleasant.
And you would know that you'd succeeded when uh, when I drop my hand, remove my hand from the hilt of the dagger. It's not. I think it's important to note that it's not fear in the sense of just pure raw fear. It's more of a um it's not being in control of the situation, as coupled with there's that underlying emotion of the fact that they basically handed over their entire livelihood and enterprise within the couple hours previous, um, in anticipation of all of this. So it reads as erratic behavior, and it is irrational. But I think, of course, Tor is probably the only one who can um, understand that and be able to, probably the only one who can get away with so casually touching Adamai. Um, so yeah, and you've of course hit on if it could be called a weakness, definitely a soft spot with Adamai is food. Adamai loves to eat.
I like it.
And my read also is that like Adamai is pretty pragmatic. It's just that Tor grew up incredibly wealthy and with no reason to fear, and so he's big, so he continues to live as if he's safe, and in a way that has made him safe.
Okay, I like that. Nice. As you guys get your bowl of honeyed, dried, cooked locust to eat and your way to the first of your three leads, how we're going to do this is we're going to set it up as a series of jump cuts. We're going to jump between you guys talking to all three different leads at all three different places. Now, when you talk to the lead, you, of course, will have basically three different ways you can go about getting information. The first way, of course, is to buy them off, but you have limited resources when you got sent here from Kanuma in terms of Adamai or run off in terms of Tor. So that leaves you with the other two methods, which is persuasion or force or intimidation or slash intimidation. Regardless, scene one, we're going to start here. You get to the Spirit of the Age, which is a Qualia Den. It is a one-level building that is circular in shape. You see in front of the entrance, there is standing there, arms crossed, both pair of them, a morgue. When you guys approach, the morgue will look you up, down, see your scavengers, and then sign to you. If you fight, you bleed. If you fight more, you die. Except,
Yeah,
cool.
Tor will respond similarly. Maybe there's even like a traditional way to respond to that sort of thing, and he'll be happy to do so.
Flip back the head signs. Adamai, you gonna say something?
Why does everybody assume I'm going to fight my way through every situation? Greedy. The third eye rolls.
You are
Nice.
always coiled like a spring, Atomai. This is why people assume you're about to bounce.
There will there will come a time more than once you'll be thankful for that tension. I will
I'm
stay my
thankful for it
blade.
now.
You guys enter through the entrance, you go through a small hallway, and we jump to the second scene. You guys are in the Dagger District where Adamai was collected earlier. In fact, Adamai, you saw this particular gallery of daggers here. Nura's gallery, I got the name again. Oh, geez. Sorry, yeah, Nusa's gallery of daggers. And here outside of it, you see that even though it is closed, that there is a single kith who is out on the outside who is looking at the daggers arranged on the walls with their hands on their back. Beside them is another Akaran, and the Akaran will nod and go into the gallery of daggers. And then, how do you guys wish to approach Yabin, who's still looking at the wall of daggers out here?
I would approach stand next to them, looking up at the wall of daggers. And I'll wait a good 20 or 30 seconds to see if they say anything first.
Your bin turns. It takes maybe you count it out. I feel like by your heartbeats, you count 10 heartbeats, and then your bin turns, having noticed you. Not too slow, not too fast, but a polite number to wait as a kith to see if you would say something first. And your bin would say to you, Clutchmate, you look violent.
I always look violent.
Do I owe tonight's pleasure in this meeting?
Believe it or not, it has little to do with violence. We seek knowledge.
Forest of Relics? When you nod to that tour, we're going to jump to the third scene now, where you guys are in the middle of the serpent slum. There are animals running everywhere, and it is absolute chaos here. The serpent slum is where the tribal mobs tend to come when they come to Tarnak, and so no two buildings look the same. They're all different types. Some of them are just flat out tents. You smell food here that's completely different from the inside. No one is dressed the same, and everyone, including the naked children that for some reason run around this place in a swarm, everyone just seems like almost not animalistic, but more of the world, more of a car itself. And so you come to this squat hovel in the middle of many more squat hovels, and Kinshara of Antfe is standing in the middle of the doorway. And when you mention the Forest of Relics, he says, I don't want to talk about it. And he turns around and goes back into the hovel. What do you guys do to Kinshara as he does so?
It could save our lives.
Save your lives, save your lives. Is there any jade in saving lives? And he looks over to you expectantly.
There is a sense of well being and connection to your fellow creature.
If I wanted a sense of well-being, Morg, not very practical of you, I would have stayed in Anfe with my family. But I left them there because they were fools, and now I am here to live. If you were smart, you'd stay here too.
This is an improvement over where you were in Anfe. And
Mm.
he like looks around at the absolute chaos and the sound and the stench and the madness of it.
Have you ever seen a monsoon raid? The storms that come out of nowhere?
I am grateful that I have not.
They tear through cities, tear through them like it's nothing. So yes, this is better, because in Tarnak, there's no monsoon raid, no earthquake, no sandstorm, none of it. So I don't want to talk about the Forest of Relics.
It would be very helpful to us.
As you say that, like trying your best to be patient, we cut back to the Qualia Den as you guys walk through the dark corridor. You come outside, and like many Bronze Age buildings, and this is actually like real Babylonian architecture here. The middle of the building is basically a courtyard with many doors that lead to rooms inside of the walls, basically. So it's like a circular building on the inside and the outside, like a donut. And as you enter through the hallway, you come into the inner courtyard, and there is a little wooden desk there with a woman sitting there who could be no more than maybe 19 or 20 years of age, with pale skin and black hair tied back. And as you both come in, she looks at you and she taps the desk and she says, "Okay, what kind of experiences are you looking for? Scavenger experiences, battles, cataclysms, travels. You want it? We can give you the qualia for it."
We're actually looking for a specific person. Gazes far away.
I can't tell you if I do or do not know. A gaze is far away. As you might imagine, when you take qualia acid, you are completely incognizant of the entire world around you. You can't see, you can't move, you're in a completely other experience. So I tell you them, and you go and you stab them, skewer them, shard science them, or something. It's not good for our business.
We promised no violence.
If you promise no violence, then you need to put up something as collateral.
Well, I don't have much.
Kathunk. I put my dagger in the desk. Point, just
She looks at the
stab it
dagger.
right into the desk.
On a scale of like 1 to 10, out of my like how richy is this dagger? How fancy?
Just fancy enough to show that Adamai is a individual of means, not necessarily monetarily, but not so fancy as to say that they are extremely wealthy or powerful. I would say I would put it at about a 6.5 or a 7 tops.
Okay. She nods at that and she says, "Okay,
Um,
suitable for one."
Tor will say, "Not the dagger." Um, like it's a really big deal, and place his hand on Adamai's back and try and surreptitiously cast some guidance, so that you might be able to convince better.
Do me a charisma check out of my if you want to go with that.
Was that guidance? Is that advantage or D4?
I
Before.
I think it's D4, yeah.
This is a good point. Good time to mention that I dumped charisma.
Me too.
Let's see. So with the guidance, that's a total of 6 on the dice. And I don't have any persuasion or anything like that, so that's a 6.
she she pouts and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry that it's so important, but I'm really gonna need something from the big fella too."
Hmm. Well, I have a little.
You have a shard stone. I promise I won't keep it. Cross my heart and swear to die.
I
You
don't
do
need
have
any.
a shard stone, actually. You both do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have your shard of origin from number B.
Yes. Okay. What else do I have that's valuable? I got like some kits and some supplies and stuff, maybe.
Mhm. You can maybe hand over some like any if you have any like of your liquid starlight as a stargazer or anything like a drug basically related to your divinations to hold on to, she could take that.
Well, the only thing I have is like the star chart, which is priceless and I would
Yeah.
never let go of.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so, yeah, he'll put down his shard. He's way
Okay.
less concerned about losing that.
Adamai
Ah.
says, not the shard, but there's no sense of surreptitiously casting a spell. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
We mean no harm. We're about to go on a journey and we want to seek the wisdom of this person. That's all.
You are a lot more convincing when you're actually worried, little kid. Gazes far away will be right over there, across the courtyard, through the building through the door to the left. Their experience should be over within the next few minutes, so if you wait, they may even come out and meet you in the courtyard. And she'll take the shardstone and the dagger and put it underneath the counter that she's sitting at. Do you guys wait here, or you just go into the room to find Gazes far away?
We're in like a courtyard, right? And it's open to the sky.
Yeah.
Um, Tor will like look up and try and gauge sort of what time it is, and based on that, if a few minutes will matter or not. If not, he's sort of happy enough to wait and not sort of like rush this person at the end of their trip.
Adamai will pace, walking slowly and deliberately in a tight circle around you. For somebody who does not want to be in a room with their back to the door, to put them into essentially a courtyard where everywhere you turn is doors. The only way I can keep so that my back isn't constantly at a door, so just keep changing which door is at my back.
While they're waiting, Tor will like approach the desk where there's like an indent from the dagger, and he'll like press his hand to it and mutter something, and just cast a little mending on it to like fix the stab mark. Um, and he'll sort of like smile politely at the woman behind the desk. And
Wow, you
yeah, he'll
won't
wait.
get any freebies from us for that, but I appreciate it, Morgie. And she taps the hole.
I'm not seeking freebies. We're all in this
Well,
together.
if you
No, we're
were.
not.
Oh, yes. No, some of us are in it a lot more than others, I imagine. And as she says that, we cut over back to Yabin and the dagger district. Yabin has turned back and is looking up at the rows of daggers here. Yabin is topless, so you can see like the dark spikes coming from their shoulders, their hands still folded behind their back, their locks falling loose upon them. And as they look upon the daggers, they say, I originally thought I would only be here in this city for a short while. And now I have been in this city for 3 months, away from my clutch. I can tell by looking at you, kithmate, that you were not born in a clutch or raised by one.
I was not.
Where were you raised?
With
Were
the
you raised in a city?
where were we raised?
Numa.
Gunamar.
Kunamar. I like it. As you say that, actually, Yabin won't even correct you. You don't know if Yabin doesn't correct you because they don't know the real name of it or if they just don't really care that much. But they'll continue and they'll say, do you miss your home? Do you worry about what's going on? If maybe another kithmate of yours or an Akaran friend of yours is still alive or sick or how children are doing?
I find it to be an idle waste to worry about what could happen. I'm more concerned about what will happen.
And what will happen is you two scavengers will be going to the Forest of Relics. Yes? Has the Ruin Assembly decided to give up on the previous scavenger ring and offered up your lives instead?
They haven't given up. We
We've been
are
Well
contracted
then,
to investigate.
investigate. I came here to find an escort for my clutch and for the Humbaba we were taking care of. One of the few last Humbabas of anyone bringing a story forward. 3 months. I was told that Tarnak was a city of miracles, and I have only found it a city of disappointments, except for these nice daggers that I am assured that if I took back to the Forest of Relics, I could use to kill the Skren that are hounding us there. You are scavengers. Have you ever seen Skren?
I have seen them, though not battled them.
You're from Kanuma. I guess maybe you've seen them in the pit of the sunken sun, your blood pits.
That is where I
They are
have seen them.
different. They are different when they swarm. Not when there's like 5 or 10 of them. When there's 20 or 50 of them, they dig through the ground, you know, almost like it's water or sand. They can emerge. No eyes, they can hear you. Even we who knew the Forest of Relics so well as our home, it is difficult to hide from them, especially with a Umbaba. So then, you are going to go to the Forest of Relics and look for, I guess, my now 3 months dead clutch and the dead scavengers. Maybe pick up the things they left behind. Am I right?
well, you
We're,
obviously had to leave it behind.
I came here to get help. Instead, I just keep telling that I will receive help, and then scavengers go and disappear off into the night and never come back. They go off into the dusk, and there they die.
In this case, we are the help. We will
And we
not.
will not die. Maybe we said that together.
I was just about to say the same
And
thing.
when you guys say that together, we jump back to Kashara Vanfe, who says, "Scared shit, you will, you won't die. You haven't seen what I have, but okay. You want to talk about what's out there? You need to make it worth my time. Jade, you're scavengers. How about you get me into the city and get me to the new market where I can get some food, huh? Or you can come around me and give me wine, horn hash."
We have any money?
Probably very little, if any.
Um, as a druid, do you have to prepare your spells? Yeah, right. You just know them
Yeah.
all. Okay.
You know them all, but you prepare them from a list. But if you haven't prepared anything, you can just, it doesn't matter. You can just start a spell. I won't like, oh,
I was gonna hand him some good berries. Maybe
okay.
I don't know if that's interesting to him, but I'll go through this process where I'll like take out the star chart. It's like a really arcane process for what is a very minor effect. Um, Pulls out this like scroll case and like like first enters like a complicated code, and then like unscrews the top and pulls out this like ancient map of the constellations and traces them and casts a spell, and then like a little handful of berries will appear. And he'll offer one to him. This will feed you for a full day. There are many of them here, and I will give them to you. You need only eat it once in the morning, and for the rest of the day you'll be full.
The berry. He looks at it and he looks at you and he saw the Nahi, he experienced it. And like most people who aren't scavengers or used to shard science, he kind of shrinks at it because it's like affliction to the senses. And he looks at the good berry again and he says, "A full day, and it won't poison me. And it, how do you know it'll keep me full a full day? I got a big stomach and my mama tells me I'm still a growing boy. Full day?
A full day. It is what I use when traveling.
Since yesterday morning." And you can hear the growl of his stomach, and again the sense of the poverty this man hits you compared to the old district you're in, and he eats the good berry, smacks his lips in a disgusting way, and says, "Hmm, hmm, hmm. Take this good Beck's milk drink I used to drink. All right, cool. Let's talk. So you want to know a little bit about the Force of Relics? Well, I, Kishara Von Fay, can tell you. Here's how it works. I left on Faye. Now, I didn't leave under any good kind of conditions now. And for the next about 30 minutes, he is going to, unless you stop him early, he's going to regale you with the tale of how basically he was very poor in Anfe because he gambled away all his money. And then when he got the money back, he just couldn't help it, man. He had to get back into gambling. And he wasn't that good of a hunter, and he hadn't hunted in a long time. And his grandmother didn't care that he wasn't a good hunter. And so he didn't want to go back into hunting and making weapons and making traps and all that. So he'd go back to gambling. And I'm going to continue like this until Tor or Adamai are like, stop. Does
We'll
that
say,
point ever come?
I will say
Yeah.
that, interestingly, in this district, as despite the fact that you painted a chaotic picture, I think that Tor, you would see no objection from Adamai, because Adamai recognizes that despite the poverty and the gangs and the mobs that are sort of settling in this area, from the animals running unchecked to the naked children running in packs in the street to this rambling individual placated by magical reasons, there's a truth in the body language of the people here. They know the situation they're in. They're not trying to hide anything. They're already so there's not much you can take from them anymore. There's no reason for them to pretend to be something they're not. And so I think there's this, in the midst of this visual chaos, there's a sort of peace that Adamai finds in the honesty of the body language that's being spoken around them. And so I will not interrupt, just sitting and listening, because I think the other thing that Adamai has learned uh, in their work rising through the ranks, of saboteurs and assassins is, you learn your targets, through observation. So I will not be the one to interrupt.
Tor will interrupt after some time. I think after maybe the fifth time that he got some money and then gambled it away, he will say, "Kashir of Anfe, you have lived a cyclical life. This is very in tune
Cyclical.
with nature, in a way. There is growth and there is decay. There is life and there is death. And in a way that is a beautiful story, though it does not help us in the goal we are trying to achieve, which is understanding the Forest of Relics and your experience therein. Perhaps you would focus your tale on that part of your journey."
I was getting there, but you're right. My life has been cyclical, and you get this sense he has no idea what that means. And he's like, life and decay. Yes, so listen, I found life in a nice little oasis I bet you scavengers would want to know about. And as he says that, we switch again to the qualia den. The door opens up in the back, and out comes Gazes far away. She wears a very plain, essentially like frock slash robe that is of dark color around her body. Her hair is braided back. She is very dark of skin tone. And as she comes out, her eyes are red and puffy. She looks as if she's been crying. She has a bag that she wears on her back. And as she moves, you can hear the clinking of a sound only brutal people would understand, like yourselves, given your backgrounds. The sounds of bones in her bag. As she leaves the door and she walks to the courtyard, how do you guys want to approach?
I will move as soon as the door opens. Um, I imagine there's probably been a few false starts as different doors have opened with different patrons moving in and out. Every time I turn on my heel, to face and see if that's who we're looking for. So when we finally see her, um, I very quickly move to intercept. Not to physically intercept her, but basically to step in her path.
She sees you. And of course, as usual, you look slightly aggressive, especially for a kid. And she's taken back and she says, this isn't it. I don't owe anything to this place. I paid. And she looks to the door girl who's not even paying attention.
I'm not an enforcer for this place.
Okay. And then you,
I am. What am I?
nice to meet you, Adamai. I haven't talked to many kids recently. I am Gazes far away. It is a traditional name. It is a little bit late though, Adamai, so
We have questions.
she looks over the tour. She looks back to
Hello,
you, Adamai.
Door
Hello?
Keeper. We don't mean to trouble you. I am sure you've just been through something significant. But in the morning, we are going on a journey, and we thought you might be able to help us. You might know something about the route that we are taking and about what happened there.
Are you scavengers then? So the Rune Assembly did decide to act. Oh,
Correct.
ah, praised icons, Jade and Scaragall. So then, my disciples and apprentices, I got separated from. And it's really hard for her to say that, Adamai. You know, she's telling a half truth with that. But it's more like a half truth of shame. In fact, I would say probably so much shame that Tor, you would notice it a well, being how wise you are. And she continues and she says, but I wanted you to go find their bodies. You can't leave if you're leaving tomorrow. You would be there within the next 10 days. There are signs that a Zood is going to be coming to the Forest of Relics. And a Zood, you know, is a cataclysm where over a period of days it drops below freezing, very rare in Akara, and remains there for up to a month at a time, freezing the entire location. It is a cataclysm, one of the six, that can wipe out even a city-state. When she mentions it, you now know what the cataclysm you'll be potentially facing out there is. And she says, it's not good. You wouldn't come back either. It'd be a waste of resources.
It's
Well,
not.
there must. Go ahead.
It's not a decision, or it's not a question of whether or not we're going. It's not even a question of when. We are going. We know the cataclysm is coming. We just need anything you can tell us.
Scavengers are daredevils, after all. And she'll sit down. She'll say, this doesn't need to be like, we don't have to get another room, do we?
No.
Okay. And she will pull around and sit the bag on her lap and she'll say, well, me and my survey team were going to the Forest of Relics. We were working with another organization here in Tarnak, and to be truthful, no one had been to the Forest of Relics in some time. Not since really Nazar had fell, and there hasn't been much trade with Anfe in the last 10 years, and Umbar has been strangely quiet. Umbar was still standing, I can tell you that when I was there. Um, the forest was wilting. It was all dead then. We were trying to find the ruins in Nazar to sketch, but we never quite reached. We got intercepted by. And she pauses and she's shaking her hand a little bit and she'll stop her hand and she'll. There was Skrin there and they ambushed us. We were separated. Separated. It's a miracle I got back. Alive. I don't know how I did it.
You have said separated many times. What happened?
Her hand balls up a little bit and she says it was just it was fast and they didn't want to go that far away from Umbar. They figured that maybe it'd be safer to stay by due to some tremors in the area, but we got separated and it wasn't my fault.
You do not believe that to be true.
She says nothing.
If you had to pass through, was it called Azud?
A Zood,
The
yeah. It's just Zood.
Zood, okay.
Z-U-D. Mhm.
If you had to pass through something like that, what
It hadn't
preparations
come
would you
yet.
make?
If I
Yes.
were, I would, well, when I look at, and she opens the bag and she starts taking out what you realize are bones, skulls, ribs, femur, some from morgue, some from kith, some from beasts that may be extinct now, and all of them are just scrimshawed in so many tiny symbols, languages and languages and languages. It is ridiculous the amount of effort and time she must have put into this. This, you realize, as a bone keeper, is everything. This is the entirety of her research, her knowledge. And as she picks up one bone, she says, well, here is what I would do. And we cut back over to Yabin. And Yabin says to you, all right, there's a quarry. It's between Umbad and Nazar, not deep into the forest. It was a quarry for gold and jade. It kept Nazar functional. We Kith helped them maintain it. We did not work it much. We did not care for such things. When Nazar fell and things got worse, the quarry became a kind of base for us. We kept things there. That is where the clutch was left when I left. It was a defensible location. We had it well booby-trapped in the forest around it, and it was big enough for our Humbaba to wander around and eat from what foliage was remaining, while we tried to figure out what to do next. Our clutch had gotten pretty small. There weren't many children. Most of us are aging. That's why they could not make the journey. I am one of the few adults that was strong enough. There's not much food left in the forest of relics, as you may imagine. I can tell you, when I left, I came across two morgue. The morgue's names. Oh, let me scroll through and find them. um, the morgue's names were Tig, he that breaks the legions, and We, quieter than man and beast. They were helpful, good companions on the road, and they went to Umbar afterwards. They said that they were spending time in the forest of relics. I suggest when you get to Umbad, you would ask them what they may know. They knew about my clutch. Are you satisfied, scavengers? Will this be enough for you to pull off the impossible and do what your compatriots could not do 3 months ago?
Listening to everything he has to say, I'm reading his body language, looking for signs if he's holding anything back.
He's not. He's pissed. Or they're pissed, I should say.
Did he mention the Humbaba? Is that gone or is it still out
It's
there?
still there, or it was
Okay.
when he left.
It was still there when
Then
they left.
then Tor will ask if we come across the Humbaba that your clutch was close with. Is there anything that we might do or say to it to calm it?
It is unfortunate that Atamai was not raised with Kith, but I can teach this, Atamai. And he'll hold out a hand for you. And he wants you to take his or they want you to take their forearm. Do you do so?
Yeah, I will take their forearm.
They do this because it is easier for Kith to communicate ideas using all senses, if possible, including touch, as you can sense those micro touches. And they communicate this idea to you, chirping to you very low. Do you speak, by the way, Quoa the Kith language, Tor, or no?
Sorry, me? I
Yeah.
don't have it. No.
Okay. So Adamai, the chirps are coming to you, and then the Kith will say to you in Koa, which is the same with your chirps, clicks, and a few words in there. It will say to you, Chuan Chuan.
I will
Say that.
repeat it. Tuan, tuan,
Say it again.
tuan, tuan.
Say it, and as it comes to you, touch it gently. Give it a piece of food if you have any. A big leaf will do, a yeep yeep leaf maybe. And then it will be calm. Hopefully, if there are other Kith nearby, you won't have to do this, but if the Humbaba is, and they grit their teeth and say alone, then that will help. It has no mate out there in the forest of relics. We could not find one for it. It may be the last of its kind.
Before they let go, I I will grip their forearm, sort of turning this multi-sensory communication into a um I got to imagine this. It has a touch of the Canoeman, sort of a like a hybrid language, a little bit of appropriated Canoeman mixing in with the Kuowoa.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. Yep, Kuroboa.
But basically to say uh, thank you, and then one more time, Tuan Tuan.
Chuan Chuan. And as they let go of you, we jump again to Kishara Vanfe. And Kishara Vanfe, at Tor's prodding, has finally gotten to the point and tells you this. There is an abandoned outpost just a little bit north of Nazar. I'll mark it on a map for you for another one of those berries, and it is hidden so well. You can't even see it from the mountains and the slopes around it. There is this beautiful wall of foliage. It's wilted, yes, but good enough. And there, an old outpost that used to belong to the Nazari. I slept there. Nothing ever came. And I was there for many a day. As you see, sometimes, on the road, it is just hard to gather the spirits, to pick yourself back up and keep moving. But I did so, yes. And that will be what the location they gave you is your oasis, where you can successfully take a long rest during the expedition. Very necessary, as I'm sure you can imagine. Um, and as for the information that was given to you from the bone keeper, she said to you, cloud feathers, cloud eagle feathers. If you can find clothes made from cloud eagle feathers, that will keep you insulated. And is there anything you guys would ask or say to any of the three leads beyond what we've already discussed?
I think Tor would just thank the Bonekeeper and Yabin, and then would, as they're finishing up with Kashir, just hand him like the whole handful of the berries. And he'll say,
These stargazers.
eat only one per day. You do not want to
What
eat more than one.
if I eat two, what'll happen? Will I get lucky?
No,
Hmm.
you will feel unpleasant.
How long do these last for?
It's a great question that I don't know the answer to.
He's gonna start mumbling to himself. If they can last for at least 3 days, I can sell them, and he'll turn around and go back into his hovel with the berries. Word.
The
And then not am I.
the only thing I don't really say a whole lot to to Kashir of an Anfe. No, I take that back. I think I say pretty much the same thing to each one of them, except to Yabin. It's a little more. It's a little more intense, but to each one of them, I say, "We will return with news, at least," and it's full of confidence. I believe that based on what we saw during Numberby, I believe that our visions were enough to show beyond some of the visions we saw were beyond um, this particular quest. That makes me believe we will succeed. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But Atamai believes it to be true.
Nice. They all take that in different ways. Gazes far away will lower head again solemn, hiding something still, but taking some heed in your words. And Yabin will accept you fully, but will leave you with a warning, Adamai. Also for Tor to hear, saying, you flirt a little bit with predation. Be careful. And Kishar, is still mumbling about how to sell the berries and does not listen too much to your affirmation. And as you guys are leaving Kishar's hovel, and you're cutting through the streets of the Serpent Slum, and you're in the darkness, surrounded by the night all about you, something happens. Can I get both of your ACs, please?
I actually don't have any gear, so I don't know. I'll just be unarmored, I
Yeah,
guess. So
base
Just the 10
12.
plus your dex. Yeah.
base AC for me. Whoops, I opened up the wrong thing. Base AC for me, I believe. Let's keep catching. What's my dex? I think dex is one of my high ones. So 14.
Nice. You both take a total of 8 points of piercing damage, 10 points of poison damage. I need you both to make me Constitution saving throws.
You do want a second session, right, Marquis?
Yes, yes.
That was sorry. That was 18 points of damage. You
Remember,
said
you have your force of will, so it's going to go through your force of will
that's
first
right.
because they're
That's
like
right.
temporary hit points. Yeah.
And then it was a con
Nice,
save.
Tor. Yeah.
Um,
8. Jake, Adamai, your body goes completely frozen as a dagger strikes you in the shoulder and you're paralyzed for a brief while. Another dagger will strike you, Tor, bouncing off a part of your armor because you succeeded, so the poison won't be able to get to you. And then a third dagger will land on the wall into the wood right beside you of this hovel, and it'll stick there, and there will be a message hanging from it. If you look out into the darkness, you look up and you see a figure disappear on one of the hovels and go racing across the slums, disappearing them. You can either help Adamai, who is poisoned, or you can give chase to this figure. What do you do?
I think if it was any other character, I would chase, but Tor is not going to leave Adamai here. So he'll move over to Adamai and he will. What can I do? Not much. Um, he'll just like kneel down in front of her and say, I am here. Be not afraid.
Poison lasts briefly, only 10 seconds. Tell me what your experience is from the stab, the poison, the seeing of the third dagger, and now this when it wears off.
the very first thought is anger at myself for becoming too comfortable in these slums, too um relying too heavily on the truth of the people around here, not realizing, of course, this is where somebody would choose to hide and choose to strike. I let my guard down, getting already getting involved. My own words, we're not even over the threshold yet, and we're already having to deal with all this stuff. Then it turns to anger at Tor for not giving pursuit. There's literally nothing that Tor can do, nor that I can do. I can't even use my third eye to communicate, like, as I'm completely paralyzed. And I think eventually, as the paralysis wears off, I think the pain itself of the wound is the least of my worries. I've been stabbed multiple times. I've been poisoned before, sometimes by my own hand, to test out the potency or to understand how something's going to work on somebody, or even to build up tolerances. So that's the least. I think once I gain movement again, the first thing I say is in Morgani, is whatever the Morgani equivalent of WTF is. But, calling Tor in Morgania dumbass, and then just reaching up, physically grabbing this wherever this dagger struck, and just kind of pulling it out and almost going to discard it, and instead holding on to it. There's information that can be told. There's a reason there's a gallery of daggers. There's a lot of story and information that can be learned from individuals' weapons. So I will hold on to that.
You were indisposed, and I cannot leave you when you are indisposed.
If I am paralyzed, there is nothing I can do. That
Exactly.
means you have to be the one to do things.
What if there was a second one?
We saw ourselves at times beyond this. And even if they were misleading, if it is my time to go, then there's nothing you can do to stop that.
I can try my best.
I will tell you this now. I will be damned if I let an assassin's blade be what takes me out. We are scavengers. If anything takes us out, it's going to be a cataclysm. And then I kind of smile, as it's a very poor attempt at making a joke and trying to make light of what we're heading into.
There is a message. Perhaps we should read it.
Well, you take the dagger from the wall, and this is where we will actually be ending tonight's session. When you take the dagger from the wall, hanging from it is a simple string. The daggers, by the way, are all made from what looks to be Noorman star metal, basically metal from things that do fall from the sky. That tells you that either this is a real, true Noorman sent message, or someone's doing one hell of a forgery. Could be either, you don't know. The message is on a single piece of black paper. It's written in Kanuane, which is basically like the written form is like written in constellations with like points and lines and everything. And it says to you thus: if you go to the forest, the city will become your nest of vipers. It is a threat. Go on the expedition and die when you return. I'll let you guys. Actually, we'll just wrap it up there and we'll say that's it. So
No,
we'll
that's-
cut the black right there.
Perfect.
That's
So
that's
boom,
great.
yeah.
That was awesome, Marquis. I love the way you handled the 3 locations as
really
jump
movie-like. It
cuts.
was
That
cool.
was
Yep.
Thank you.
fantastic. Done very cinematically and kept us from having to travel between the locations. And as always, just incredible world building and scene setting. And like I said, before our next session, I'll have things set up so that we can have the Owl Bear Rodeo visuals up so that we can all see on screen.
It'll be good too because I don't
locations.
have the Owl Bear Rodeo completely ready, but next time you guys will see popping up on the map like the points of interest you learned about, the expedition sites in Oasis today.
Yeah, cool.
So that would be cool.
Yeah, that'll be good for it. It helps. It helps obviously Lloyd and I to be able to see it in there, but it'll be a good reference for everybody else. So, we commented a little bit in the side chat, and I think it's interesting. In particular, the way that we built these characters through the ritual. These weren't characters that Lloyd and I set out and built from scratch in a way that where we were like, oh, I'm gonna do this and this and this, because if anything, we are almost completely the polar opposites of what we had intended that we would play in terms of classes and whatnot. And I think we're both finding out that our characters, you kind of free yourself to learn about your characters. I'm learning that Adamai is a lot more paranoid than I would have thought.
And yeah, and I think because of that, I went in the other direction even more than I had planned, which is kind of great because now it's a they complement each other in a good way, I think.
There was
I
one
think so,
moment, and if Jeremy's still in chat, he'll appreciate this. I almost called you called you Ingvarad. From our Whispers and Fragments campaign. Lloyd and I had a not at all identical, but there's touchstones of our characters' relationship that were very similar to the characters that we played then. And there was something you said that was very Ingvarad, and I almost called you Ingvarad. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Jake, for letting me run this session 1 here. We have now basically gotten through the prologue. So next session, it will be you guys will come in, we'll get your equipment and everything at long last for your character sheets. You guys could deal with this message, and then you shall set off into the world of Akara.
Yeah. I figure it's
Nice.
about time. We've only been talking about running this game for like 5 years. So
Yeah, right.
some variation of it.
time.
So
Yeah.
no, this is fantastic. I'm glad we're finally rolling with it. I'm excited to see what your world and what you have to throw at us, and how our characters are going to develop through this adventure. So yeah, thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you to everybody hanging out in chat, whether you were active in the chat. I saw a couple people, somebody popped in and said that they had backed Scavenger back during the Kickstarter, and we're excited to for this game and to see it, and I'm sure we'll get more people coming by to check things out. So whether you are actively talking in the chat, or you are somebody who likes to lurk quietly in the background, or you're watching later on the VODs, know that we appreciate you. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to our GM, to Marquis, and for especially for running this for both Lloyd and I, and thanks to Lloyd, without whom I guess without us this would just be Marquis talking to himself for a couple of hours. So with
Happens
that,
a lot.
yeah, nothing new. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end this stream the same way we end every stream. You can say it with me if you want. Metagaming.